Hi, this is Lisa Saunders. Welcome to PAC-B TV, and I'm pretty excited to have this man who has kayaked the entire Erie Canal. So, David, you don't even live in New York. You live in Washington State, right?
I do live in Washington State, but as a boy, I lived in New York along the Hudson River, and my uncle taught at the University of Syracuse. And so I remember the canal. And of course, I learned the song, Low Bridge, Everybody Down. So I figured I need to paddle the Erie Canal. And so I did the entire canal and the Hudson River to the Statue of Liberty.
Wow. I know. I noticed that you did that. Now, regarding just the Erie Canal, first of all, tell us your name.
Again, my name is Dave Ellingson. I live in the Seattle area. I am a Lutheran pastor. I was a professor for many years, and now I'm an adventurer.
Okay. Well, that's a fun second career.
Yeah.
Okay. So how long, just the canal part, because that's what I have friends interested in. How long did it take just to do the canal?
Well, the canal took 2 weeks, and I was moving along at a fairly good pace. It's about 363 miles from Buffalo to Albany, so that was the pace I took. And I had good weather. It was late in the season, end of September, early part of October, so the fall leaves were bright and colorful. I even had frost on my tent a couple of nights, and the bugs weren't so bad.
Yeah, the bugs are an issue because I'm trying to walk the entire Erie Canal, and the bugs, if I went the wrong time of day, like in the
Right.
morning or dusk, the bugs
Exactly.
were murder if there were trees around me. So
That's true. That's true.
I know how important it is to
Yeah.
go. And all right, so how did you get your kayak? If
Well, actually, I shipped my kayak from my home in Seattle. It literally wrapped it in bubble wrap, and you can transport it via air fairly reasonably. It was actually cheaper than renting a kayak because if I rented a kayak in Buffalo and get to New York City, I'd have to get it back. And so I decided just to ship it, and it went very, very well. And that's how I made it the whole journey.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, where did you start?
I started near Buffalo. Actually, I put in at Tonawanda.
Okay. All right. Well, just walk us through some of your slides and tell us
Okay.
some. And I want. Oh, the big question is, how did you sleep and eat, and how much did you have to cart around with you on your
Okay.
journey?
Okay. Well, I camped pretty much along the way in my tent, and you can actually camp at most of the locks because those are state property, and there's some campgrounds, but I was always welcomed there by the lock tenders. And I packed along most of my food, but a lot of the little towns along the way, you'll see a couple pictures, have great restaurants and coffee shops. And so I tried to patronize the local businesses whenever possible.
Okay, great. All right, show us the way.
All righty. I'm going to speed us through. And obviously, the map, I know people out here don't know exactly where the canal goes from where to where, from Buffalo to Albany.
Mm-hmm.
This is the kayak I took. It's a 17 and a half foot rotomolded plastic kayak. And it actually took me down the whole Mississippi River as well on an earlier journey. So, and I did a journey 2 years ago along the fjords of Norway, and those are all in my books, Paddle Pilgrim books. So
Okay,
let's
so how can people find your books if they
they can go
before
to
we?
Amazon and just
Okay,
or go to my website, paddle-pilgrim.com, and they're available on Amazon.
and
So here's
okay.
here's a picture of the first day, literally near Tonawanda. I love Mary Oliver, the poet. Attention, instructions for living a life. Pay attention, be astonished, and tell about it. And that's kind of what I do.
Okay.
Here's a kayak friendly dock at Tonawanda. That's one of the challenges. Sometimes they say getting in and getting out of the kayak are the biggest challenges. And this was a wonderful dock, and more the docks along the way are kayak friendly.
Okay, great. Is that you?
That was me,
Okay.
yes. And this is
Who took the picture? Wait a minute, who took the picture?
oh, my guy that transported my kayak uh took the picture and launched me. He had a little outfitting business near Buffalo. And this
Okay.
was this was a wall of the canal that was oozing water, and it just drew me in. It was the first day, and
Wow.
oh my goodness, I just
This is
loved
beautiful. And you
that
still in
experience.
Tonawanda, or where are you for that one?
That was just a little bit east of Tonawanda.
Okay, that was
And
gorgeous.
yeah, and here's one of the locks along the way, and of course there are 20 plus locks you go through. And if people are wondering about that, it's very easy. You paddle in, they drop you a rope and you hang onto the rope as you go down if you're going west to east. And then the gates open up and you paddle out. And sometimes you're with other people. I was, for the most part, by myself because it was end of the season.
And they will raise and lower the water just for a little kayak?
Oh, yeah. I had a marine radio to let them know I was coming, but there's a light, a red and a green light. And that first or second day, I guess it was, here was a father and a son traveling. You can see the sumac is beginning to turn colors along the way. There was one of the actual game department people along the canal who greeted me. She was fishing for a cormorant that she was nursing back to health. And I call the people I meet along the way canal angels. And this was the first people. I met some wonderful people. This is another person I met in the town of Medina. They were having ale in autumn. And so we were sharing some ale on Main Street. And that was a great adventure to replace my fluids after a long day of paddling. Here's another one of those people I met along the way. This was in Brockport, and I actually camped right next to the visitor center. This fellow, Raul, you can see his bike on the left. He had biked both directions. And of course, the towpath, for the most part, is very, very good for biking. And that's another way to experience the canal. You meet people along the way. These were folks from Michigan who had rented a packet boat. You can rent packet boats. And you don't have to be a licensed navigator. You can just rent one. They chug along at a nice pace. You can sleep aboard. You can see their bikes. So that's another way to experience the Erie.
Oh, I never thought of that. So it's not that hard to steer one of those?
No, it's a big rudder, a big wooden rudder. It's just the way the packet boats were back when the canal opened.
Oh,
it was one of those lock masters who was actually helping me get my my kayak up a slippery slope after I got out, and I camped right next to that lock. That same lock, here's one of the tugs, the DeWitt Clinton. Of course, we all know that DeWitt Clinton was very instrumental in getting the canal built. It was quite that's an amazing story. And if people want to read it, I think the best book that I've read is The Wedding of the Waters, Peter Bernstein's book. And it tells the whole story and the politics and the many, many years of the building of the Erie Canal. This is a little harbor in the town of Palmyra. You can see my tent. I'm camping over there, my kayak. And so I walked up this ramp and found a wonderful cafe, the Muddy Waters Cafe. And the next morning I got up, you can see it had rained, and that's the wonderful breakfast that was served to me by the host there. And I have my journal out to write. I did that every day, and that's what becomes my books. These were the harbor hosts, a group of local people who volunteer to greet people when they come to town and show them around. And so I got a chance to chat with them, and they got a kick out of my adventure, and I learned a lot from them. I wandered through town, of course. The architecture is always interesting, and I love just to see the sights walking around in town. The canal art along the way, and there's more and more of this wonderful art. I believe you did a program.
Yeah, I interviewed Mark, co-founder of Mural Mania, and that was fascinating. So I hope if people are interested in this, they'll check out that show I also did for PAC-B TV. These are fabulous.
Absolutely.
What town are you in now?
That's a good question. I believe it's near Spencerport.
Okay.
One day bleeds into the other.
I know, I'm sure.
This is what I call canal art, just a tree that had blown over and was sculpted by wind and water. And the experience of sights and sounds and smells, it was fall. At first, I thought I was surrounded by pollution. And then I realized, no, this was an autumn collage.
Oh, yes.
And just the lovely colors of the leaves in the canal. And of course, in the early going, you're in apple country, Johnny Appleseed country. And I just took a bite of an apple and I put it on the dashboard of my kayak and was paddling along. And I've shown this program to a number of school kids. And one of the school kids said, "Do you see it? Do you see it?" And I said, "What?" And they said, look at the shape in the apple. It's a heart. So it took a
Oh,
child
yeah,
to see the apple, not just as an apple, but
right.
as a heart. So I love this particular slide because it shows it. This is a sunrise near, oh goodness, Weedsport, further
Mm-hmm.
along the canal. And you can just see it was a perfect day. The sun was coming up and I got the reflection in the water as well. There are over 300, I believe, bridges across the Erie Canal in one form or another. Many of them, these wonderful old trail bridges. A person pointed out to me one day, they said, "Can you see the picture within the picture?" And I went, "Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
The
Wow, you really did
shadows created."
get some great shots. Yeah.
Well, I love to shoot, and I
Mhm.
actually, one of my photos was in the Erie Canal calendar contest and won an award for one of my photos.
Wonderful. That's
This is the camp near Sylvan Beach. There's a wonderful campground there looking out over Lake Oneida. Big body of water. You have to be very careful when paddling across. Usually you paddle around the edges because the wind can come up. I had a calm day and I just paddled hard and made it all the way across. Fortunately, as I got across, I met with some of the folks from the Canal Corp who had been very helpful, and they let me hitchhike on the back of one of their tugs. There's my kayak. So I rode with them to Utica,
oh, so
and
you had quite a lift, so you didn't have to paddle the whole time.
I
You
did.
actually
Truth be told, I didn't paddle every mile. You know, you do what you need to do, and
right.
here I am on the front of the Grand Erie. This is a wonderful morning leaving St. John's Port. It was, or St. Johnsville, further down the canal. It kind of reminds me of one of those wonderful Japanese paintings with
Mm,
the landscapes. And I
yeah.
paddled into the fog, and the sun came and cleared the fog out. And this actually was by Spencer Port. I pulled over to the side of the canal because they have several sections along the canal of the original canal, and I wanted to get close and see what that looked like. And here's an example of how small the original canal was. It's been through 3 iterations. It's now much larger. It's more like a river now. So if people are wondering, you're not paddling in a narrow little canal. You're actually paddling in a fairly good sized body of water.
Now there is so you say it's mostly a river. Is the current tough on you?
There's no current until you get into the Mohawk River Valley, which is towards Amsterdam and towards Albany, and then you actually have a current. But it's at least when I was paddling, it was negligible. It might be a little more in the springtime, but they have
Hmm.
some dams that control that level, and so
Okay.
here's one of the crossings where I'm told that by day it was a grocery store. By night, well, other things happened there along the canal, and the wild west in many ways. And so that was right along the canal. And this was not a picture. I just took a picture because I wanted some people who weren't aware of how the packet boats worked
Right.
with the mule and the driver, and just a picture to show how that system worked. As I said, it was fall and the leaves were turning, and this is in the Mohawk River Valley, and you can kind of see how beautiful it was, and you can also see how large the canal is. It's really a river at this point.
Right.
As you get to the final part of the canal at Lockport, you go through a series of locks. There's actually 5 locks in succession, and this was actually a water lock before that is more of a flood control than an actual lock. It is lowered and raised to control a high water in high water times. And here I am at the village square right before the Erie Canal runs into in Albany into the Hudson River. So here's where I camped again along the canal, and was able to visit a great pub in the town and meet some of the locals. And you can see beautiful sailing boats along there. And I just pulled my little kayak up and and camped up by the actual lock for the night. So this is the actual end of the Erie Canal.
Well, that's good to know when I get there. That's the end. I don't want to camp though. How hard is it to see hotels or bed and breakfasts along the way?
You mean you said you're gonna bicycle?
No, we've walked about
Oh,
46 miles of the canal. We're just doing like a couple of miles a week because we have to walk one way, then walk the other, and keep driving to these places. And we're still
gotcha.
busy with other stuff. And so far they've all kind of been in the middle of nowhere, but it's in the middle of the state, kind of near Camillus.
Right, right,
We've done from Port Byron to Chittenango, and
right.
but we're walking the Erie Canalway Trail. So that's going to be
Sure.
mostly along the enlarged canal, but I'm pretty sure we join up with the active canal at some point.
Right. Right.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I
There
just
are a
don't
lot
know.
of resources. If you go online and Google Erie Canal Guide, there's actually a guide that has information for paddlers, bikers, walkers, and it mentions where there are visitor centers and has information on restaurants and hotels as
Yeah,
well.
so many things have been closed because we started this a year ago, our journey to do this, and so many things are closed because like a pandemic and restaurants
Yes.
closed. And so I'm hoping things are going to open up so we can find more places open and
Yeah.
bathrooms. Like, how did you? It's been kind of a terrifying experience wondering if I'm going to find a bathroom in time.
Well, yes, that is a challenge, and planning is what it's all about. And then I have four daughters, and we taught them how to take care of themselves in the woods. So there's always the woods nearby.
Right, right. I have to. Yeah. Okay. Um, so you loved it because a lot of it's very peaceful,
Oh
and
yeah,
is it something you relaxed with or were thinking? Like, what kind of thoughts were you? I don't know. You were
well,
alone a lot. I mean, I see you met
yeah,
people and you got
yeah.
a boat ride, but you clearly are sleeping alone a lot.
Yeah. Oh, the whole time in my tent. And I enjoy being by myself, the solitude.
Okay.
That leads to reflections. In fact, in my Paddle Pilgrim books, I have three of them now. I have three P's. I have paddle, which is the travelogue. I just talk about, what I saw and what day it is. And then I have pictures, obviously, as you've been seeing. And then I have something called ponder. And those are kind of the reflections on life. And, when you've got that time on your hands and just to think, I always have my little waterproof notebook out and it's on the dashboard. So if I have a thought, I'll write it down. And when I'm in my tent at night, or if I'm sitting in a coffee shop or a pub along the way, I'll have that little booklet with me, and I'll write something about my experience that day. And so it combines both the travelogue for those who want to know where I am and what I saw with pictures, but also kind of what I call beneath the surface, the interior landscapes, kind of those reflections.
Well, tell us again your website and again how we can get your books or look at
Okay.
them.
My website is paddle-pilgrim.com. And the books all have the first part of it with Paddle Pilgrim. And there's one on my Mississippi River journey. There's one on my Erie Canal, Hudson River journey, and one on most recently my Fjords of Norway journey. And those are all available on Amazon.
Well, Dave, thank you so much for coming on the show. And as I walk, if I have any questions, I'll be sure to contact you.
Please do, really. On my website, my email address is there, and I literally post quite often. There are several Erie Canal Facebook groups that I encourage people. The New York Waterway Trails, you can find a number of Facebook groups. And what you do is you say, well, I'm going to be walking, or I'm going to be paddling or biking. And quite often people will say, oh, if you need a place to stay, if you need a shower, if you need some help in our town, just contact me. So that we've kind of created a community along the trail.
That's wonderful, because actually I did post help wanted. Weary grandma and grandpa would love a lift, because we get tired of walking one way and then having to walk back to get in our miles. We're having to double it, and I want to get across the whole trail, and I'd love for somebody to just give us a ride once in a while so we can get a ride one way and then walk back the other way. So I did already get a couple that said they would, yeah, we'd be happy to give you 3-mile ride lift in our
Nice.
skiff, kind of near
Nice.
Troy. So I'm still hoping for that. So you said there's a community of places where I can ask for that kind of, if people are willing to take a chance on a stranger.
And there's also something, Google Canalway Challenge.
Yes.
Canal Corp has created this wonderful historical corridor. You can get stickers and gear if you do 30 miles, 60 miles. In fact, I've got right here, here's my 360 miles
That's what I'm
from
shooting
doing the
for.
whole canal. And this is actually a magnet that's on the side of my office wall here.
Well, my mother they actually even have 1-mile trails. My mother's in a wheelchair and she did her 1-mile challenge. I pushed her and she's gotten a little certificate now, and in the mail, she's going to get, something. They said stickers, all kinds of things.
Wonderful.
So it is a wonder. It's wheelchair friendly trail, and
Yes.
clearly you can kayak it. So I'm looking to do that with a friend of mine, Sue, and this will give us something to really think about. I'll have her watch the show, and a lot of my friends, actually, I'm from Mystic, most recently, Mystic, Connecticut, and everybody kayaked there. So I think
indeed.
maybe I can lure them to come visit me where
There
I
you
live,
go.
because as you can see behind me, I'm in Baldwinsville, which is lock 24. So
Right.
hopefully I can get people to come visit me.
Well, I remember Baldwinsville particularly for the Beeville Diner.
Yes.
And I have a picture in my book of a big plate of French fries and a chocolate malt. And I liked it so much that when I went back and did a book tour along the canal a year or two after my paddle, I went back to the Beeville Diner, and I actually spoke at the Beeville or the Baldwinsville Library one evening.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It's a great town and a great lock, and I enjoyed being there very much.
And so you went through this lock 24 that's behind me.
Oh, of course.
Okay. You remember it well. Yeah, I like
indeed.
taking my grandkids there and watching the boats come in and out. So
isn't that fun? Oh,
yeah, it's a lot of fun. What year did you do it, the Erie Canal?
I did the canal in 2016.
Okay, I didn't live here then, but anyway, maybe you'll come back and I'll see you.
That would be fun. I'll look you up.
All right, thanks, David. It was nice to see you, and thank you so much for joining us on PAC-B TV.
My pleasure. Take good care.
Okay, bye-bye.